meant to go there for 2 weeks, but the experience there, like the people, is just phenomenal. It reminded me much more of like Madeira, because it's like so stripped back and it's all about community driven. So like as we get there, me and Lopez, we arrived at like I arrived at like 10 p.m, but we all going to another island called Lombok, and as I arrived, the boat was at like 10:30, 11, and it was an overnight boat, and me and Lopez were like, fuck it, we'll just get on it and go. We get to the other side and we get there at like 4 or 5 in the morning, so everything is closed. This guy who was like a taxi, it's not like a normal taxi, it's like people that have their cars and like they say, oh, to this place is so and so, and we get in the car and we thought, oh mate, this looks dodgy, and so we get in the car and we went around like loads of little like guest houses and everything was full. But the thing is, like, the guy didn't leave us until we found something and we were safe, which I thought was like amazing. You know, like
it's kind, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like the guy made sure that one, we got somewhere safe, and that like we had a place to sleep. Like he wouldn't leave us. He was like, nah, I'll stay with you the whole time. And at first we were really worried because like it's our first experience landing. We don't know what to expect. But like that experience set the foundation to like my whole experience in Bali, because it made me trust the locals so much quicker. Where some people, like there were some people that I had conversations with where they had not as a great experience, but for me, I always trusted that everything was going to be fine. And since that experience, everything just felt so, I don't know, wholesome in a way. It was just, I just really had one of the best experiences. Honestly, like, I would love to live there. It's really that good. It's not even like, so one of the things that really shifted my opinion is the energy there is so much higher. Like the frequency, you just feel so alive and you feel like everyone's there to do something bigger. I can't explain. You have to literally go there to feel this. It's not like the UK. It's
mate, I know exactly what you said. I've been to Bali and Madeira, both of them. I stayed in Madeira for 2 weeks out in Canisu, and I was down in like Funchal with Alex Freitas. Do you remember?
Yeah,
legend. But it's the same thing. Like people are so hospitable. They kind of they want you to be around. Like they actually value your presence as opposed to just over here. They don't really do that. They want you in and out the door. Do you know what I mean? You feel like you're just a hindrance to them. I feel like culture's dead in Jersey, but in places like Bali and that they have like a massive culture. It's well more communal. On an island like this, I think it feels like everyone just lives individually. You know what I mean? But like Bali and that, you're always together, you're out, you're on the street, you're not sitting in your gaff watching Netflix every night, you're actually with a bunch of people. I know people go there on holiday and it's a little bit different, but fucking, I know what you mean with the energy and that. It's the same with Madeira. Everyone's like, yeah, come in this cafe. I know they want you as a customer, but it's they treat you politely, do you know what I mean? You don't feel like you have to fucking hurry up. One
of the things that really stood out as well, so like to live there is so cheap. I paid £400 for a month accommodation in like a guest house, which is like you got your bedroom, your toilet. I had Netflix, internet, like good internet as well. And the lady so they have a god for everything. They have a god for like bikes, water, like everything.
A god?
Yeah, like so like every day.
The god of bikes. Matt Hoffman.
They like do gifts for God every day. It's like this green flower, and they put like flowers, sweets, and everything like on the street and everything. So where I was staying, the lady opened up a different section to her house, and she was like, "Please come to my house. Like I have food for you." Like bear in mind, I've been staying there like 2 months at this point, but she wasn't. I didn't feel like she cared so much about the money. She just wanted me to have a good experience there. Yeah. It was so amazing. And if for anyone who hasn't been, like Bali is one of the places that can really change your perspective on life, I'd say. It's like so amazing. Yeah,
I always feel those sort of countries where they have like a big religious presence and they have a sort of a community that's like more outside. It makes you realise that Jersey's not like the centre of the earth.
Just touching on that. So in Lombok, it's what's the word I'm looking for? Muslim. It's a Muslim, dominant Muslim people there.
Yeah.
And the culture there is so amazing. So at like 6 a.m, there's like this siren, and it's like a queue for them to pray.
Yeah. And then it's fucking loud there.
Mate, but it's like, it was one of the most amazing things to see how like dedicated they are. And so basically there was one at 6, one at 3 p.m, and I think the other one was maybe like 7 p.m. But even like because it's a guy singing, because it's not a recording, but you just feel so calm and present, and you can see the energy shift. Honestly, one of the best experiences I've ever seen. And like learning bits and bobs about that religion and how much they respect God and what they do for God and how much gratitude they have towards everything they receive. It's honestly like humbling, because I feel like in the Western world, people don't fear God. They don't really like respect God as they do in that religion. And it's so beautiful to see, because I was speaking to a lot of the guys, even like divorce rate there, it's almost like frowned upon, and everyone sticks together, and like when you make the commitment, you stick to that commitment. So like that's one of the things I really like about it, because I don't know, it just feels like, at least in my experience, my parents are still married and that, so I've always been around a married couple, but especially like in UK, you do see quite a lot of divorce, and you kind of think like, what kind of example is that leading towards like a younger generation?
Yeah.
Like, and especially with social media, there's so many options nowadays. People are like, oh, what if the grass is greener on the other side? Do you know what I mean?
100%, mate. People don't want to like stick things through or try work things out, because they think jumping ship's just such an easy, like accessible option these days. It never used to be that way.
Exactly.
But I understand what you're saying about religion. It's like, religion's one of those, people see it as like, people believe in, fairies and the man on the cloud and stuff. But if you actually read through like its scriptures and that, it's filled with so much value of how to live a prosperous life. Yeah. That when you come to, you come to be an old person that's fucking has to die, which will happen to all of us eventually, you can look back and you say, because I followed these set of rules that somebody else wrote out once upon a time. I'm not religious in any sort of a sense, but, me and you, we both like listen to Alan Watts and like spirituality and stuff like that. And like the Arabics have a saying, I read it this week when I was listening to Alan Watts talk about, and it's called, when they see a crazy person, in Western society, people like just, they like shun those sort of people. But they say, I don't know what it is in Arabic, but in English, it's be kind to that person, for his soul is with God, which kind of means that he's just like, he's gone. So like it teaches you to have empathy, which a lot of like Muslim beliefs do. Is they teach you to have empathy. They teach you to, don't let the Western media fool you into thinking that these are all like, this is a bad religion that shouldn't be followed. Yeah. It's very similar to Christianity. The Bible and the Quran, they have similarities.
Do you know something? Like, for me, I wouldn't say I'm like in the way of how people follow God and everything. For me, I look at religion as like, for me, I call it like the universe, or like energy, or a higher power. Because for me, I really feel that something higher than me drives me forward, So I haven't got the image of like a God or something that I worship, but I do feel like, for me, anyway, I'm always thinking about, I call it the universe, because I'm really into like energy, and I really believe the energy you put out, you get back. So I always believe in being the energy I wish to attract. So I've always been very much into that, and I was very lucky to be introduced to like personal development. And I guess like if I was to pinpoint it, it would be a book called Think and Grow Rich, which I mentioned to you. So that book talks about the laws of the universe, not the laws of the universe, the laws of success, which when you like start going down the rabbit hole, you start to understand that there's laws to the universe, like the law of karma, the law of like doing more than what you're paid for. Like there's so many different avenues that you can go down to learn and really change your perspective and the way you think about how you live your life. And like for me, like one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had was life doesn't happen to me, it happens for me. And when I started to think about it that way, I was able to respond to situations instead of reacting. Because like, say if something bad happens to me, if you react, you're like, oh, why did that happen to me? Why me? Blah, blah. Or you can respond and be like, okay, that's happened to me. How can I learn from it? How can I grow? And not use it as a way to be a victim to the situation, because that, like, I really don't like the way that if something bad was to happen, I don't want to use it as a way to victimize myself to not move forward. So, like, for example, I don't know, if I was in, I need to think of an example that happened to me so I can say, for example, you went through something traumatic, and you could use that like, oh, I can't do this because this happened to me. It's not like, I don't want to use that as an excuse to ever do something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I find that mindset that you're talking about and those sort of like self-help books and books with that sort of theme, they teach you how to reflect a little bit more, as opposed to constantly living in like a mindset that's just evolved around, you know, what's going to happen to me in the future, or this mindset where you're always contemplating and thinking about other stuff. Like, it's the same with, you know, me and you have talked about Alan Watts, who's like he's a famous philosopher that's kind of a pioneer in showing more of the Western world, like Eastern philosophies, so like Taoism and Buddhism, which is all based around peace and thinking and, you know, where your mind should be and stuff like that. And it's the similar thing, like you read that book and it kind of got you to change the trajectory of your mindset and your thoughts. And I started watching his videos before I read any of his books, and there was one on overthinking. And at the time, me, I was like the king of overthinking. It's all I ever did. And the simplicity and the way he describes it can completely just change. If you can learn from it, like, it's all good watching these videos, but if you try to study the video, like, oh, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, let me try and digest what he's talking about and implement it in my life. You can actually like save yourself a little bit. 100%. I used to feel quite lost, especially in how I thought. You know, like I was all right, but I just my mindset could have been better. Yeah, and implementing those sort of things, it's like, you know, you start building the foundations to be like, oh man, I could actually think differently. I think one thing we do as humans is we create a lot of our own problems, man.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think it's there's a balance, because at that time you were doing the best you could with the information that you had. So like, that's number one. Number two is like, once you become self-aware, then you can actually change. Now you can actually move forward and be like, okay, this is how I was being. What can I do to improve? How can I move forward? And I think that as a society, especially like with social media, you see a lot of highlights, and it can be very easy for you to be so hard on yourself. Like, I've done it to myself so many times, but it's the moment that you start to reflect and actually understand who you are as a person and start to be comfortable in who you are and actually showing up. Even like you doing this podcast, being in front of a camera, like, I have to give you your flowers, because it's very easy for someone to be like, I'd love to do a podcast one day, but then like taking the action, whether it's good or not how you wanted it to come out, the fact that you take an action and you're breaking down a wall of whether it's like insecurity or like confidence, it's like you're moving forward to that higher self that you want to become. And like, I think that's so amazing, and I wish more people would actually step into those shoes, that because I do believe that a lot of people have dreams, but they're just worried about, I think the biggest one for most people is like, what will other people think of me? At least that's the most reoccurring theme that I've noticed, is like, what will people like, why does it matter? You're not going to be here in 100 years. People probably not going to remember your name. Do you know what I mean?
Precisely.
So, for me, that's one of the things that once you can break that stigma around your mindset, I think you can do anything. Yeah. I really believe that.
Mate, that is 100% true. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. Like, I can back that up a little bit. I find that is a lot of people's mindset, is I have to be judged. You know what I mean? If I'm going to put myself out there like this, then by default, I'm going to be judged. But you really do have to just think, like, I don't care what people think about me, and sort of have, like, I was telling you before, I've sat down with, there's maybe 3 or 4 episodes that I've done that haven't been posted because the people I sat down, like, a couple people changed their mind, which is absolutely fair, but it was all based around, you know, once it's up and what other people are going to think of them and stuff. But I've never had that problem in my life, even when it kind of sorts to, like, numb in. I try and diminish it and get rid of it, because all it does is just, it hinders what you want to get out of life. And as long as you're not being a horrible person, because at the end of the day, I'll be judged regardless. Like, it doesn't matter, you know? And there's really no consequence from being judged at all. Do you know what I mean? Like, as long as I've got family and people that love me and my friends, which I will always have, doing this will not change. And all it's going to be is somebody out there will tune into this and say, I'm just giving the podcast as an example, but it goes into loads of other things in life. People are going to tune into this and be like, oh, I like this, this is okay, I'm going to pay attention to it. Yeah. Some people will be like, it's not really for me. I wish him all the best. And some people will be like, yeah, that's fucking shit. That's not for me. I think it's boring. Yeah. And all of those are completely okay. Yeah. And I'd rather that like difference, do you know that? Because everything's subjective, so it's completely fine for people to not be on board. But you have to just put being judged to bed, because like you said, we're not going to be here in 100 years. The people you love, the people you care about, the world moves at such a rapid rate that I just think, do anything with your life. This life is ephemeral, which means that, like, ephemeral's when someone has like a short life cycle, you know, it doesn't last very long.
And it's always changing as well. Like for me, I feel I have really big changes, at least in my life experience. I've had really big changes every 7 years. And it's really interesting because once you start to do work around like your inner child and like your programs and the way you are right now, it all stems back to your childhood. So from the age of 0 to 7, you are 95 of your programs of who you are as a person is what's the word? It's programmed around that time. So you learn from your parents, the people around you, and everything else around that period of time. And when you, like, for me, when I was about 21, I went to like different personal development courses where you got to explore why you are the way you are, why you being the way you're being. And it's really interesting because when I look back and I figure out roughly like what kind of major things that happened in my life, it was always around the 7-year mark. Like now, even like for me was 7, 14, 21, I had a big one, and I just had one just now as well, which obviously was. So it's funny because when I was 21, I moved to Madeira for like 3-4 months, and there I had a really I had time to step away from the day-to-day of Jersey and really reflect about what it is that I want to do. And that's when I started to really take music serious and like really like, right, I'm passionate about this. How can I like step it up and like move forward? And then now I've just come back from Bali as well, like 7 years later, and I've had such a amazing experience there, and I feel like it's set me up for my next 7 years. And I think for me, 7 years is actually a really good perspective that works for me, because I'm able to break down, okay, what do I want to achieve in my next 7 years? Yes. At least that's the way I think and the way I've programmed myself. And like having goals like having long-term goals is a lot easier than having just short-term goals, because a lot of, especially with social media, we want things instantly. We want like, you work at something and you're like, I want to see results today. But it's like, for example, the gym, you're not going to see results like at least 90 days down the road. Or you might see it, but other people won't see it just yet. And it's like having that delayed gratification in your mindset, I think can be so beneficial for anyone. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, it's great for character development. Working towards something, the result and the gratification from it is a lot more powerful than just having something instantly. You're right, we do live in a society where we want instant gratification. Social media is something I like that makes me feel so conflicted, mate. I find it hard. I've never really had a social media presence. Yeah. I enjoyed Facebook when it came out in fucking 2010 or whatever, you know, and I could write something stupid on your wall and we'd all laugh about it, but that's been taken away. Do you know what I mean? That's been hijacked now. And like the internet's not really a fun place anymore. And all I see when I open up the app, like I don't have anything but Instagram. Even then I must go on it once or twice, maybe every 2 weeks. But when I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, this place is dead now. It's filled with narcissism and it's filled with ego. And then I feel like a slight internal hypocrisy, because I'm like, yeah, but you need to post this on social media if you want anyone to know of its existence. But I don't want to use it, do you know what I mean? Because I hate it, because I feel like, especially with like, you know, shorts and that, it's like instant gratification. We've gone from like long form content to 15-second clips, just rinse and repeat till we're fucking sitting there numb and drooling like a zombie. And I don't really like that. So I've thought for a while, you know, and everyone, like all these people message me like, do you want me to turn your content into like shorts for you? You need to do that if you want to succeed. And I'm like, mate, look, all I want is to put an hour or two conversation on the internet and step away from it. I don't want it to control my life. I don't want it to take over. I don't want it to be everything I do. But I just feel like a lot of people now as well, they're putting themselves in these paradigms of what they think other people want from them instead of actually truly being themselves. And I think when you do that, you start to become like your own manager, or you lose yourself a little bit. Like the truth is, I just want to, what I just explained, I just want to do this with you, whack it on the internet. I'll edit it. I don't mind doing that. But once it's there, man, my day's over. This is over, and I'll go do something else and I'll pick it back up next week or whatever. But I find now with people who want some sort of social media presence, their desire is to really like to be in your face every day, not leave you alone. Hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look what I'm doing. And I'm like, you can't be happy.
It's very challenging. Like I have a love-hate relationship with social media. For me, I'm not gonna lie, like that's probably one of the biggest struggles that I've had in the past.
Do you use it a lot?
Yeah, so like now we're getting
besides
better.
the Loft thing,
yeah.
Like,
So
I mean, like just you using it as in like a time wasting sort of. Let me pull it out my pocket.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So that's one of the things that I'm working on. One of the things that I've done the past, like, so to try and minimize the risk is on my social media, I follow a lot of like positive people, and like on my story, I always share the things that come up on my feed. So you can go in and you can make, for example, pages that you follow, which is like, I follow entrepreneurship, music, and a lot of like spirituality. So you can go into the pages that you like most and select it as a favorite. And when you're scrolling, what you're feeding your mind is positivity. You're not watching like nonsense. Do you know what I mean? So that's one of the things that has really helped me. And it, like for me, I really believe that what you put in your mind like comes out. So your mind is like a garden. If you feed it positive seeds, flowers will grow. If you don't look after it, weeds will grow. So like I'm really a big believer in, like, I don't listen to the news. I know it can be a bit ignorant, but if I need to know something, someone will tell me.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I don't watch the news. I definitely spend a majority of my time, especially in the mornings, programming my mind to the things that I want to achieve. So in the mornings, I'll go to the gym. I wake up at 5:30. I'll go to the gym for 6. But on my way to the gym, I'm straight away listening to Joe Dispenza, who's amazing. If you've not heard of him, he's very much about spirituality, but in a scientific way. So he's able to basically explain the universe and everything else in a way that a Western person will be like, oh, actually, that makes sense. Like, let me give that a go. So that's one of the things I like to do. And it sets me up for the day as well. It really makes me think clearer. It really makes me think about my goals. I also do affirmations. For me, I think that affirmations have really helped me, especially in the past year, because it helps me to really be aware of my dominant thoughts, which for me is very important, to have an awareness of what it is that I'm thinking, because when I know what I'm thinking, I'm able to pinpoint my feelings, and if I can be in my feelings, then I know that my thoughts are being positive the majority of the time, because with so much negativity, if you feel a bit depressed or whatever, it's because of the thoughts that you're having. Man is what he thinks. There's this really good book called As a Man Thinketh, and it's really about like your dominant thoughts and how they make you feel. Honestly, it's such an amazing book. I definitely recommend. But I think it's very, very important to really be at the gate of your mind to know like what's actually going in. And social media, when you're scrolling, you have to really be aware, because nowadays there's wars, there's everything. So like, are you going to be feeding that in your mind first thing in the morning, or are you going to be feeding something that actually is going to elevate you?
Mate, I understand what you're saying. I'm reading a similar book by Eckhart Tolle. I think it's called The Power of Now. And he talks about how basically what you were just saying, or paraphrasing it a little bit, how, you know, being able to think and having consciousness, they're not the same thing. Like if you allow your thoughts to, they will fucking control you, man. And you are what your thoughts are. Do you know what I mean? And so when you do like positive affirmations, you say you do them in the morning. What are you doing? Are you like, are you writing them down, or are you saying stuff to yourself?
It depends how I'm feeling, but most of the time as I'm walking, I could show you now, but there's one that I listen to every morning, and it's one of the best things. Like for me right now, one of the things that I have a goal that I want to achieve, and my affirmation right now is money comes to me in huge sums from time to time on a continuous basis. That for me makes me think about money a lot more. So what happens is opportunities will present itself where you can make more money. So like you're basically, have you had the theory about the red car theory?
Yeah, I've heard it. If you see free or something.
So basically, if you're driving to work today and you don't really pay attention, how many cars would you have seen?
You don't know.
You don't know.
If you pay attention,
but if you pay attention,
you can recall.
You're almost like looking out for them to be like, oh, I've seen these many. So it's the same with your thoughts. So when you want to achieve something, whether it's a goal or like you want to feel a certain way or whatever it is, if you think of it predominantly and you're like always making yourself like think about that, what it is that you want, you will create things around your life. Obviously you become aware, and those things will give you opportunities to then to achieve what it is that you want. For me, it's happened so much, not just with the Loft, but in life in general. And I'm a big believer in that. Like, honestly, for me, it's worked. And I think that if people just give themselves 30 days to try it, it'll work for them. There's no way that it cannot.
It has like a lingering essence of like manifestation, doesn't it? It's very similar to that, where if you like put stuff out into the universe,
it is that,
and you talk about it enough, then it will happen to you.
Do you know what's interesting about manifestation is that a lot of the stigma around it is like, if you just think it, you will have it, but it's not. So thinking is the secondary law, vibration is the primary law. So if what it is that you want, say for example, it's money, you can't just think about it. You have to feel what it will be like to have that right now.
Visualize.
So basically, like, how will that money make you feel? And the mind can't tell the difference between the present, the future, and the past. So when you go into a meditative state and you're feeling what it will be like to have that, you are actually creating that in the present moment. Obviously, it doesn't happen straight away, but because you're thinking of it and you're feeling it, what happens is you go into a vibration that will match the energy of what it is that you're trying to attract, which is, it's so small, but if you can master that one bit, you can have whatever it is that you want. At least for me, that's how it's worked. Honestly, it excites me because it just makes you realize that the universe has your back, and that if something bad happens to you, you don't really know whether it's good or bad until later on down the line.
Yeah, that's true, mate. Sometimes you can only gain a certain amount of wisdom through experience. Like, there's no fucking book, there's no scenario, there's no, oh, I went through this, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to, like, even I was explaining right now about particular stuff. Sometimes you have to go through stuff, man. But what you said before was it's a good little habit. You said sometimes you listen to the same one every morning.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, like, I thought that about myself because I read a lot growing up, man. And I used to think smashing out books was very beneficial and like would help me in learning whatever I want to learn. And as I got a bit older, I thought if I could go back and start reading again, I wouldn't read 10 books. I'd study one and I'd get to know one on a like super familiar basis. But I was just happy to be like, oh look, 10 books, 11 books, 12 books. But looking back, I know knowledge wise, I would have grown a lot more or learnt a lot more if I would have like just treated this one book as my Bible.
Do you know why?
It's like, I don't know, repetition sometimes confirms things for you. And
the other thing as well is like when you read the book the first time, it's great. But when you read it the second time, you see something in yourself that you didn't see before because you get a different perspective. And every time you read something, especially if it's the same book, you will be in a different state of mind. So different things will jump out at you. And like, for example, Think and Grow Rich, I've read that book pretty much near enough every year since I was 19 because I understand the power of everything that has in it. Like the biggest concept on that book for me is a mastermind, which is when two or more minds come together to achieve something. And that's something that me and Sam have really well. Like, we know each other's strengths and we work so well together. Like, people can look and see, oh, that's really cool what they've created, but it's the things that you don't see that is even better. Do you know what I mean? Like the way we communicate, the way we understand each other, the way that he will ask questions to like take better things out of me. Do you know what I mean? There's so much behind the scenes that make us achieve these kind of things. And it's not about us at all. It's about like when we started the Loft, I tried to do it in my bedroom and I was like, it was weird. It wouldn't work. So eventually, again, I started to think about like, I really would like a studio. Like, how can I create this? And an opportunity presented itself. And when that opportunity presented itself, I was like, I'm going for it. It took me 6 weeks to build the studio from nothing. There's actually, I was showing my friend, I did a video of me doing it from beginning to end. It's not live on YouTube, but it's there, but just not like publicly, which is pretty cool.
When you're big, mate.
Maybe.
It could be part of the documentary.
So one of the things that we made sure was to include as many people as we can. So what we're trying to do is create a community. We may be the driving force, but we would not achieve anything without the people around us. So the DJs, the promoters that we've worked with, the establishments that we've used, everything like is never about us. And that's one of the things that we've always tried to come from. Like, we've always gone from the place of like, how can we help more people achieve what they want to achieve? Because the more you can help someone achieve what they want to achieve, the more you will achieve what you want to achieve. So 100%. Like, that's kind of like the mindset behind it, which is, it's so powerful.
Mate, it's admirable as well. And you'll get blessed doing that as well. If you believe in higher powers, mate, and he sees you fucking putting all these people on out of just pure kindness, then you'll get served.
Yeah.
You'll get served something.
Do you know something? I almost like cried on a weekend because I had 3 people come up to me and they hugged me and they were like, mate, thank you so much for, like, I'm almost like getting emotional about it, but having someone come up to you and be like, thank you so much for this opportunity and thank you so much for like bringing me over. People who were playing in the bedroom not even a year ago and now they're playing in Liverpool in a big club. Yeah. It's like, when you...
people like Minto. Nah, joking. I love that. I love that kid.
It's such a blessing to have that opportunity to serve someone, you know, like, because you come from a place of giving, but actually you actually receive so much more because someone is appreciating what was done. And I think that's why, because there's no money in it. I do it for the passion of how it makes me feel, and equally I can see how it's making other people feel. So it's very, I don't know, I just love it so much.
And do you think from the time that you first initiated, like going back to the bedroom part that you were talking about where you built a studio, how long ago was that?
So the studio was built in just around COVID time. So
which ain't too long ago, looking back. Yeah. So since the birth, and was that like the birth of the Loft, really?
Basically I built the studio.
Is that its infancy stage?
Yeah, so 2 years ago, there was not really any opportunity for up-and-coming artists to play around Jersey. So I built the studio, but at the time as well, I just want to add, I didn't see the vision that I see today.
Yeah, well, that's how I was going to go with it. Like.
So at that time... obviously Sam had, he already had a previous promoting company, and then he stopped doing that because he was focusing on like trading and everything, so he stopped doing that. But he had access to clubs, and I had a conversation with him and I said, look, if we do this together, this is what we can achieve. Sam is one of the most smartest, kindest people I've ever met, and he's so business orientated, and together like we've done some really cool things. He's come away with me to courses and that, so the way we communicate with each other, it's so different to anything I've experienced before. I feel like we are a powerhouse together, and I love it. Like, he was one of the first people to really believe in me back in like when I was around 19 with, do you remember that like network marketing that used to be around, like, you should be
yeah.
So I showed him, and he was one of the first people that said yes. And that, like, he probably doesn't even know this, but like that was such a big like thing for me, because he was the first person to be like, I believe in you.
Well, for you to show him, and him, instead of like turning his back against it, to actually like welcome it with open arms and be like, what have you got to say?
That time we were so young, but like that experience really set the foundation of what we have today, I believe. Because one of the things that I know with Sam is whatever we do, say for example, Tuesday, this needs to be done, it will be done. Like, we keep our word to each other, and we know that if something needs to be done, it will be done. There's no question about it. We have 100% trust between us, and that's one of the best things I think that we have, because we, like, our word is our bond, and that's one of the most powerful things that I've come to learn in business, and I've just learned so much from him, you know.
Yeah.
I think, I really respect him. I think the friendship that we have is solid in terms of that. Is
a good little duo.
Yeah,
mate, there'll always be there's power in numbers though, right? Two's always better than one. You're doubling your chances, and if you get someone who's on the same wavelength as you, the same frequency, then I guess you're laughing. It's like this as well, mate. Obviously I started this on my John, but every time I do one, it's two of us, isn't it? And there's little things that happen. It's like going back to you setting up that studio in your bedroom, and going back to when I first started the Instagram page and sat there and done a little sort of monologue of what I'm going to try create and try birth. Things just happen, that you never expect, that help you in a massive way, that they just come to you. But it's like, you would never get that chance if you didn't take the original chance. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, it evolves in such a strange way where it's like sometimes it's like, I don't want to say the universe serves you shit, but it's clocked what you're doing, and it's like, man, I'm going to throw you a little, like, I'm going to throw you a bit of help here. And you're like, where did that come from? Like, doing this. Do you think when I started this, and in that little speech I said I'm going to try get politicians on, I didn't think my fourth person was going to be Sam Mezek. Do you know what I mean? So I'd have never had Sam Mezek had I had not started, and then, like, you have to, I don't want to sound like wishy-washy, but you have to start the journey, mate, and then things just fucking come towards you. And it's probably happened with the Loft. You were in your bedroom, but there's no way you said, well, you might have, because you're quite, like, you write stuff down, but you never said, in 4 years we'll be travelling to Liverpool and putting on events.
2 years.
2 years. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you have it written down? No, you're saying you've done it in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, that's even sicker. But I bet you didn't know that. Did you think that? No.
So
you didn't think that's what the future held?
No. And I think just to add into what you're saying, whether you're aware of it or not, it's a really good example, because a lot of it is setting an intention. So when you did that call and you said, like, this is what I'm going to do, or this is what I want to do, you're in a way like setting an intention to manifest what it is. Like, whether you're aware of it or not, you are doing that every day.
Yeah.
So, like, everyone is doing that. If opportunities are coming to you, it's because you're thinking about it, and you're like, oh, the podcast, and you will attract people into your life that will be like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. I want to do, like, from the beginning, I was like, I love what you're doing, like, keep going, like, and stuff like that. And then I said to you, like, I would love to come on and have a conversation with you, because you see in other people what you see in yourself. And when you see that someone is trying to do something for them, and you're doing that yourself, you kind of, like, for me anyway, I see that as like a way of connecting with someone to, like, support each other and, like, grow, because from this conversation I know I'm going to learn, and I hope that, like, you can learn as well, because I think that's so powerful as well, understanding that everyone comes into your life for you to learn something.
Yeah, mate, and that's it. You have to start. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't obviously I've known you for years, mate, but I didn't know you on a level that was as personal to sit down. And I think when we were up at Stead's that time, and me and you were chatting, and I was like, I didn't know you were like this. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know this is how you thought. I didn't know that this was your sort of mentality and your mindset. And I think we carried on chatting after it. But I was like surprised that day.
Yeah, thank you. Do you know something as well? Like, I think just to add on to that, especially in Jersey, not so much like when you travel away and whatever, but people remember a version of you when you were a child or when you're in school, and that kind of, like, follows you into as you get older. But the thing is, as you grow up, things happen to you and you become a complete different person to what you used to be. But the stigma, because Jersey's so small, and, like, people kind of assume that you're the version that you used to be 10 years ago. Like, 10 years ago is a long time.
A lifetime, mate.
Do you know,
like a different person.
It's a decade. And it's like,
completely different.
You can be judged because of things that you may have done when you were younger, or the way you may have been when you were younger. And it's like, I'm not that person anymore. Like, I take, like, responsibility in, like, what I feed my mind and what I want to do. And only people that are really close to me get to obviously know that bit of me. And I'm glad that, like, we've sat down, because I think if more men came together to, like, actually have a conversation, like, with girls, they share their feelings quite a lot with each other. Men don't do that. Men don't like have conversation like, this is how I'm feeling. It's like you have to put the bravado on and be like, oh, I'm good, like don't worry about me. And it's like I've had such deep conversations with people, and because I'm quite an open person, I feel a lot of my friends have come to me for conversation, like, this is how I'm feeling, like, how would you approach it or whatever. And a lot of the time, I don't tell them what to do. I just ask open questions. Like, so say, for example, they came up to me and they were like, I'm feeling this way. Okay, why are you feeling like that? What do you think caused it? Like, I'm not one to you know the answer to what it is that you're feeling. You help people
reflect, mate, when you're asking stuff like that.
And I think that comes from the experience that I had with the other person. Like, I went to America for me and Kat, when we were together, we went to America to do a course on like, it was just like basically a self-awareness course. And then there's like 3 stages. The first one is like your subconscious mind, your ultra-conscious mind, your infinite conscious mind. So the human body's got 3 minds. And then it's like awareness, so your inner child, all that kind of stuff. The second one is like an experience. So you got to experience things like trust, like who you are, like so many different ones. But the third one was the most powerful for me, which was a men's leadership course. So in this place, there was 70 to 80 guys in a ranch in San Francisco. And basically you got to lean into male and female energy, because we have both. Some guys have more feminine energy and some guys have more masculine energy. And that comes from like ego and all that kind of stuff. The best man is the one that's balanced on both. Right. Like the best version of yourself is if you can be balanced on both, so you can have empathy and so on and so forth. So in this place, I was really able to discover the potential of a deep connection with a man. And that's not in like a like, yeah, it's literally as a guy being able to have a conversation with a guy and be like I love you as a brother, and I want to like be there for you if you ever need anything. And like that was one of the biggest experiences that really changed my life and really like set me on a different like way of thinking, of being. It's so powerful, and I definitely think if guys did this more, it would be so much more powerful, because like, one, you'll treat women so much better, you respect them better, but 2, you'll also understand your boundaries, because a lot of the times you'll settle for something that is not good for you. Do you know where I'm coming from? Mm-hmm. But yeah,
I do. It's a tough one for men, mate. I find what you say about girls, you know, they meet up in a group. Yeah, they have people say they have a little bitch and they have a one. You know, they might moan about the boyfriend, whatever. But it's good. It's cathartic, mate. They get stuff off their chest. Yeah. Like I'm happy for them. I'm glad they do that. Men, they find it hard to do that, and it's, I don't know. I'm still trying to work out. Me and Gustavo talked about this a little bit. Society gets a lot of blame for putting that stigma onto men, but I think a bigger portion of it is we just do it to ourselves. We hold too much pride inside of us where we just don't want to open up. It took me years to learn that I actually didn't open up as much as I thought I did. Now, I had a lot of like stuff that I went through that I've never spoke about, like very untraditional sort of like parental sort of situation, and home life sometimes, and relationships and like that. But what would go on in my day when I went out and I met my mates at night, you all right? Yeah, let's go. That's it, man. And we just enjoy the night. I could have the worst day of my life. You'd never know about it. And I think we walk around like that. And I said the same thing to like, I'll see people in the street sometimes, but I'm thinking of something like, I'm not thinking too well. Minute I see, if I bumped into you, yo, it's this guy.
Yeah, how's it going? Yeah.
What's a quick hug? See you later, mate. Smile, walk off straight back to thinking weirdly. You probably said, I see Malloy today. You look fucking well happy. But you'd never know, do you know what I mean? And I think we do that to ourselves, and I think that's what we need to change. And sitting down with people, like we're sitting down now, and you know, we're not getting too deep. I think it changes the trajectory a little bit. It makes other people see like, there's nothing wrong with speaking, man. We all go through our own versions of little traumas. We all go through our own versions of, you know, life throws every single one of us a curveball. None of us are special. None of us have been just what I've been through and what you've been through. it could be both bad, you know what I mean? Nothing's worse than anything else. We all have our own little demons and we all struggle with our own shit. It doesn't matter where on the spectrum it is, it's fucking hard sometimes. Life's hard for loads of people. But people don't want to open up and admit that. And going back to social media, that's why I fucking hate it, because it just amplifies that by 10 times as worse. We've I'm going to go on a rant.
No, go for it. Like, I'm here for it.
Social media has allowed people to fit into these paradigms now where we're just carbon copies of each other. We just show, like you said, we show highlights, but we all just want the same thing. Otherwise, you look like a weirdo when you're posting. We want to see the engagement photo. We want to see the photo in the tuxedo when we've had a good night out. We want to see the baby scan photos. And then everyone just posts the same thing, same caption, same thing, fucking maybe a bit of food or whatever. But like you said, there's nobody ever since the beginning of the time, unless they look like they're having a breakdown, maybe Kanye or someone, but no one's ever recorded themselves saying, fuck man, this is what's happened to me, because you're not really surrounded by your friends, like, do you know what I mean? It's and that's why social media is shit as well, because mate, if we had 100 people following you, but there are 100 people you love, but no one wants that. They want 2,000 people watching what you're doing. Why do you want 2,000 people paying attention to you constantly every single day? You're never going to open up your app and be like, fuck, I'm having a fucking shit day, because hundreds of people be talking about you and you feel like you look like a weirdo. So it's a facade, mate, basically, which you're just living in a lie. I don't know why. That's why I hate social media, because it's you think everyone's happy, and even then, it not only is it putting up a facade, but it's amplifying people's like anxieties to a sense where they feel like they have to post. You know what I mean? They're like, you know what I mean? I was like, someone posts something, I was like, I think I'm like living in a dreamland or something, because I swear they posted that like 6 hours ago, but it says 5 minutes ago. Me, it's like, no, a lot of people, if it doesn't get enough likes, they'll delete it and they'll post it at a busier time. Yeah. And they'll keep changing the caption. I'm like, if you're sitting there doing that, you can't be happy. That's not more nicer than fucking being outside or something, or just speaking to you and chatting to you. Yeah. And another thing as well, social media's done is it's taken away like the camaraderie of people. It's like, it's meant to be social. It's the most antisocial thing in the fucking world, mate. You'll just sit there on your own, acting like, you know, you're talking to people. You're not really talking to people. And then we've lost the ability to meet up and sit down and do this.
And it's frowned like you say. It creates the anxiety, and when someone actually messaged you to be like, do you want to go grab a coffee or whatever, someone's like,
I've got to go outside. I've got to go outside into the fucking wide world. Like,
don't know about that. But yeah, I completely get where you're coming from.
There's loads to it, man. That was just me touching the surface. You know, and if I was to just carry on ranting, and
but you know something else as well. It's very all and good us saying this, but how can we make a change? Like, how can we, like, do you know something that I really liked so far about the Loft is I've met people that I would have never crossed paths with. And like, even Liverpool, there was like 3 or 4 different friendship groups, people that would have never gone away before. And to see that's really like powerful. But how can we actually do that on a bigger scale? How can we actually, because I'm sure if we're feeling this way, or if we're talking about it this way, I'm sure there's hundreds of people that feel the exact same, but maybe don't want to speak up or be like, oh, actually, I want to be out with you more or whatever. So how can you make it a safe space where people can come? And because even like clubbing nowadays, it's going out the window. You haven't got like a really social place to go and like meet new people. Jersey is so cliquey. So how can there be a different way of doing this? Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a difficult thing to think of, mate. I think because I feel like we're at a weird age with social media where it got brought into our lives at a time where we could either give or take it. Yeah. It's not the be all and end all of things like it is with some people. I feel like for the younger generation, it's all they've ever known. Which I read a quote once that said, because this pisses me off like so much with social media and that, and someone said once, fucking, the world you grew up in is dead and you have to come to terms with that. Because I'm quite a nostalgic person, do you know what I mean? I'd rather things be like how they were fucking 10 or 15 years ago, because that's when I was having the most fun. And that's when the internet wasn't so portable and it didn't control our lives, and it was just stuck in the corner of a room and you had to go over there to use it. Once it was done, you'd fuck off and then you never thought about it again. Now it's like a shadow, mate, that's always just lingering in the background. And I can't seem to handle that. And I just see, like, I look around and I'm like, this is affecting everybody. And I just wish it wasn't like that. And I'd love to turn the clock back just 10 years and fucking have that sort of mentality and that sort of environment brought over to this environment where we are now. But what I'm saying with our age is like, we could give or take it, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't care. I could go on it or I couldn't go on it. None of it phases me. Some people live by it. And but then I feel like, I also get conflicted because I'm like, well, maybe you're the bigot. Maybe you're the guy that's fucking becoming the old man. Do you know what I mean? You're the person that's like, yeah, the world is changing, bro. And if you want to keep complaining about it and moaning about it, then you're just that guy who 20 years ago that was moaning about your fucking environment. Yeah. Are you just becoming that person? You could be.
Interesting perspective. I like it. It's hard. But do you know something else? I do miss, like, growing up. Because obviously in Madeira there was no phones. Like, I didn't see a phone till I was like 10, like when I came to Jersey, where I had my own phone or whatever. But in Madeira, I remember you always used to go, like, there was always one place where everyone would go, meet up there, and then you'd play like hide and seek or whatever.
Yes,
like,
bro.
I don't think many people like that are born after 2010 even played hide and seek. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all like PlayStation,
Roblox and shit.
It's crazy to think, actually. Like, you're making me feel nostalgic right now. Like, just thinking about it. Like, you're taking my imagination.
That's
there.
it, yeah. And I love that. I love how we grew up. I love the environment we grew up in. I grew up on council estates before I went to a private estate. They were both just as good as each other, but there was some sort of camaraderie because everyone was outside their gaffs. You know? I miss being down Gwanvo and the Sangshan, Liberation Court, all places like that, because we're just running around the streets. Yeah, fair enough. We were misbehaving and doing stuff we shouldn't be. Like, and now I'm an adult, so I'm obviously not going to go and do that. But there's some, like, I just want to see someone. I want someone to come smash my window, man. Nah, I'm joking, but you know what I mean? It just
see you there. Like.
That's after this. I'm gonna do one thing quickly. Bro.
Yeah, just.
I always do it a little.
Yeah.
We're locked in.
Oh, stop it, will you?
Yeah, but fucking, and it's the same thing with school, mate. Like, I know I left school 2011. What's that? 12 years ago. So, there's still that nostalgia though. Where I'm like, oh, school was so much fun. Granville was class. Do you know what I mean? I'll do anything to fucking.
What would you have done different
in my life? That's a good question.
Like,
growing up,
like, if you could go back to school right now, knowing what you know today, what would you have done different?
Oh, I would probably. I'd sit still a little bit more. I'd think. I'd reflect a little bit more. I felt like I used to always just be on go, man. I'd make a lot. Sometimes I'd do things I didn't even want to do just because I wasn't thinking straight. Do you know what I mean? But if I could go back, the main thing is I'd wind the drinking in a little bit. Yeah, I'd wind the drinking in a little bit. I felt like I'd look out for my brother a little bit more as well, man. That's one thing I always regret. I always looked out for him. We're very close. Yeah. But I think things affected... I learned later in life that I think... We both went through similar stuff that I probably won't go into, but I learned, like, later in life that he got affected from it a lot more than I did. You know what I mean? There's some stuff that I just ate, man. I didn't care about that would probably affect most people. But I think I didn't notice because I was out all the time. Do you know what I mean? I was out drinking and I was out fucking doing whatever, and I was never really home. But yeah, I don't know. I've got, that's a great question, mate, but I think I'd have to ponder a little bit to really come up with like a good answer. But it's a good question. What would you do?
For me, I would have started my journey a lot sooner because I didn't realize how much I was holding on to. Like, you're a kid, you don't really realize how much you're holding on to from childhood. But the one thing that I would have been more aware of if I could go back is my passion. Like, I would have done music in school, because when you're in school, I was quite like sporty. So I was like, oh, everyone is doing sport, so I might as well go do sport because I like to play football and that. And I didn't really think about like to set myself up for like my later years in life. So like for me, I would have definitely done music instead of sports, because music makes me feel a complete different way than sports. Like I don't even watch football or anything anymore. So for me, I would have definitely done music in school. I would have been a lot more present, I would say, because I know that school, you can have a love-hate relationship with school, but I definitely, if I could go back and give myself advice, I would have paid a bit more attention then, because I now realise if I had paid more attention then, I could have had an even bigger head start. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Like, you hear this from older people.
I know, mate. I know.
But actually when you get to this, like to our age, not that we're old, but like even now I could see how, because I see kids nowadays like 21 that are millionaires, and I'm like, they have access to information that we didn't have access to information there. So it's very easy to judge them on when they're like successful very young, but actually what did they go through? What kind of parents do they have? Do you know where I'm coming from? So I would have paid a lot more attention to that, and I would have looked for opportunity a lot sooner than now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that you have a head start.
You could have got ahead of the curve if you were paying attention to the correct things. Yeah, I think that a lot. Like, I try to play guitar every night. It's a little bit of a going off track, but I'm trying to learn every single key, mate. There's 15 different keys, the sharps and the flats as well. But I want to do it to a degree where I can just pick up the guitar. Because one thing and just play. Because one thing I've learned, it's all good. Like, you know, you can go on YouTube, learn a little tutorial, but you're still staring at a screen. Nothing's better than, you probably have the same thing with DJing. Yeah. When you first learned DJing, you probably did read a lot of books, manuals, YouTube tutorials. Now you've gotten to your place where you could probably sit there with the equipment and you don't have to you don't have to think. But that's good, mate. That's so cathartic for the mind. It's the same thing with me. Like, when you can play in a key or two, I can just turn on the pedals, put my headphones in and turn the amp on and fuck off from the world for 3 hours. And that like does something for me. When I come out of those 3 hours, I'm like, oh man, that was peaceful. Yeah. But still staring, when you're learning, it's not that peaceful. It's actually quite strenuous. So to get to that place, but going back to, 10 years ago, if I started learning my keys, I'd be a wizard at my keys. And it's a shame because it's not something that you can just... It's repetition sometimes. Sometimes it's repetition that gets you to learn. You can read all the fucking books you want and you can sit down and you can be like, yeah, mind-wise, I know that. Yeah. But you have to literally implement it into such repetition that you do have to wait for years to go by before you're good at it. Yeah. You cannot learn it faster than fucking putting time and effort into it.
10,000 hours, I think it's what it takes to be a master or something.
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's what they say. Yeah, they say 10,000 hours. And do you know what I mean? If you start at 10... That's why all these prodigies you see, like, I don't know, who's that Luke Littler at the moment that's throwing mad fucking darts. Yeah. Seen that dart 16-year-old
Did you see his picture when he was like, as a kid with the little ones where it was like a magnet?
Well, that's it. Yeah. That's how you get amazing at something. So... just start learning something when you come out of the womb.
Exactly, literally. But I think it's like if your parents set you in a path to be like getting you to try a lot of different things and whatever they feel that you're most drawn to, like push them in that direction. Yeah. And like say like influence them to be like, if you can like think bigger and like just keep on like feeding them what it is that they are interested in, you can have such a big advantage. That's why I'm excited to be a dad, man. Yeah. Honestly, like I can't wait to be a dad one day. I just feel like because I didn't have those opportunities growing up of like someone being there and be like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. I can't wait to be able to do that for someone else, like, and actually not be living for me, but being responsible for someone else's life. I think is going to be such a good experience. Honestly, I'm so excited.
Yeah, let me come back to that, mate, because I really want a family. Yeah. But what you asked me a question before where you said, like, what do you regret growing up, or what would you change if you could go back? And you just reminded me of some of them when we're talking about the 10,000 hours and that. And well, you said. If you have a kid that's into something, push him and get him to do that. Like my parents tried to do that for me. But my dad took me to Aikido, which is a sort of martial arts, when I was a child. Yeah. And I didn't stick at it. I'd done it for a year or two. Yeah. Got okay at it, and then was too like, I'd rather be out with my mates. So I fucked it off. Swimming, I'd done swimming clubs and became quite an alright swimmer. Fucked that off. The flute, mate. I played the flute in primary. Played the flute towards the end of primary. But what it was learning me, it was learning me sheet music and that. I got to Granville, mate. Me and I think McGee played violin, and he was like, I'm gonna quit today, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll quit as well. Then we can just fuck around at lunchtime, and now we don't have to go to instrument club. And now, as a 30-year-old that plays, like, wants to learn an instrument and goes back to martial arts now, if I'd have never given those things up, I wouldn't be starting from where on. So I had a chance at 10, I had a chance at 12 to do these things that I'm now doing as a 30-year-old. I'd be great at them if I'd have carried on. That's one thing I regret, because I've thought about this actually prior to this conversation. If I could go back, I would have stuck at a few of those things.
It's interesting as well, because, like, that falls down, now that I'm older, it falls down under, like, who are your 5 closest friends? Like, your circle of influence are the ones that are either going to elevate you or keep you stagnant. So that's one of the things I really want to be cautious of, like, especially going into my 30s. Who am I surrounding myself with? Are these people wanting to go places? Are these people, like, leveling up? Are they business orientated? Do they want a bigger, like, piece of the pie in terms of, like, money and everything? Because for me, I don't necessarily want to be I want to be the worst out of the people around me, because in a race, if you race with people who are better than you might not win, but your time will be faster. Do you know where I'm coming from? So like, for example, Usain Bolt, he'll push you to go faster than you in a race that you are the fastest one, because you would only like go to the pace that you need, where with him you'd be like, I'm going to try my hardest to get to where he is. Do you know where I'm coming from?
I 100% know where he comes. Sometimes at martial arts we do sparring and that for the last hour, and I so enjoy having to spar people that I know would kick the shit out of me, who kind of do, because I learn so much from it, and I'd rather be against somebody that I know could fucking kill me than somebody that I know that I could do better than them, because I don't want to really do better than people. I'm there to learn. So I'd rather be facing somebody who's going to fucking hurt me, so then I can really learn from it. But it's the same. It's like what you said. Yeah, you try to put yourself with people that are like not the best in their field, but are going to make you progress. There's no point trying to be complacent and show off, say, look how good I am. I just fought someone who are better than. Well, hey, I'd rather get the shit kicked out of me, man.
Nah, I agree.
Yeah, mate. Going back to like, so with the Loft and that, what's it's like? What's the goals then, mate? Because you're obviously very goal driven, and you have, this isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and you're trying to put it on a trajectory that's only an ascension. So what are you gonna do?
So the Loft is actually the name came from the 1980s. I've always been into like, how did something start? Like, what was like, house music started because of a failure in instruments that were designed for like jazz, like drum machines they called, and that's how house music started in like the 1980s and stuff. And around that time there was a club which was one of the first clubs which was for gay people at the time. It was their place to like be who they are, because it was really frowned upon back then. And there was a nightclub called the Loft. So when we were like sitting down and thinking what we're gonna call it, that thought came into my mind, and I was like, what about the Loft? And Sam really liked it, and we just went with it. And ever since, we've always focused around community and growing that. So now we've done events all around Jersey. So we've done Rojo, Zavana, we've done the Splash, which is pretty much all the events in terms of nightclubs. We've done Wonky, where we hosted a 10, and we've done Crafty J's where we hosted a 10, which has been like such a good experience to be able to do all this kind of stuff in just under 2 years. It's crazy. We just did the event in Liverpool, which was pretty much a sellout. I think we were like 20 or 50 tickets off like full capacity, but even then, like it was packed. Like it was probably quite a good thing that it wasn't the extra people there, but the experience was surreal. To be able to do that has been amazing. So this year we're doing a festival in Jersey, a day festival, which I'm working on at the moment with Sam. We also, because next year we want to do like a 2-day festival. So we're naturally like just growing, but that's not just what we want to do. Eventually we want to be into management, so having artists under ours, and where we can get them gigs in the UK, like Australia, whatever. So that's the bigger picture, and then eventually do a label, like a music label. So like we're not just thinking about events here or there, we're thinking bigger, like much bigger. But it takes time to develop the vision. It takes time to be like, oh, actually, how can we do this better now? You have to go through the process of like, the first year, me and Sam were doing everything. We were doing socials, we were doing like creating decorations, getting the sound systems, everything. Like, that's what happened in the first year. This year now, we're more focused about like, who can we find that's better than us? Who can we approach that is a master in their field? So like for decorations, we've made a connection with a guy. His name is Tim, and he does Scene. It's called Scene, and he does a lot of decorations, which amazing. Like he was like so kind and like very helpful. We've met other people, like for example Marquee Solutions. We're working with them now to do like a bigger arena in terms of like a marquee, so it feels more like festive-y kind of experience. Piers at the Splash has been so helpful, and it's because like we really focus on building relationships. We focus on actually doing something together and like helping each other to achieve the same goal, because everyone wants to succeed in their field. So like, how can we approach it in a way of like, how can we build something together. And that's why I'm mentioning their names, because for someone else who wants to create events and that, they can check these people out and be like, oh, they do marquees if I want, or they do decorations, or this is the person who runs the splash. I think it's very important to shine light on the people that are helping us build something, because in Jersey, when you see a price for a festival or like an event, people don't really understand how everything comes together in terms of like, it's not that they don't understand, it's like they don't really think about it. Like, you just go, you turn up, the artist is there, the decorations is there, but like someone has to put all these things together. And that's what I loved about it. That's what made me curious. So having that understanding and like showing who does what, we can create more value into what actually like for us to do an event in at the Splash in June, we're planning before Christmas. Do you know what I mean? It's a 6 months lead to like, okay, we need to get this people, we need to speak to this person to come here to organize the meeting, to then see like, well, how much is this going to cost? How can we, okay, well, how much is the artist going to cost? You have to speak to labels, you have to speak to management, there's so much that goes into actually creating an event. It's not like you turn up and, oh, it's there. Like someone has orchestra, I can't even say the word, like, so has organized all of that to make it happen. So like that's one of the things that we want to really push this year, is like show the behind the scenes, like this is what happens, this is how we do it. And eventually we hope that it will create enough value that people will understand, oh, actually I understand why the price is this. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah. And not only that, mate, it will lead to inspiration as well.
Exactly. And like we want to talk more, like this podcast has been amazing because you start to really understand the mindset behind achieving those things, and like what you have to do to be like, okay, if I have a dream or if I have a goal, I have to say no a lot of the time. No to my friends, no to going out,
no to drinking,
no to drinking.
Things that are going to hinder your mentality.
So like you have to, like, being successful, everyone wants to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So that's a quote from Eric, the poet. He's like motivational speaker, and he, like, when he's speaking, like in the mornings I listen to like gym motivation and stuff, and that thing just like pumps me up. But it's also like programming your mind. So yeah, going back into it, showing who these people are and showing how things come together. We really want to create value, and also we're always looking for people that want to be a part of what it is that we're creating. And I think becoming approachable and letting people know like this is what we want, people will hopefully open up to becoming part of it, and also meeting other friendships at the events that they probably wouldn't have met before. That's one of the things that we would love to obviously create more of, and encourage people to actually come to Liverpool, and like people from Liverpool to come to Jersey. So create like that bridge is the intention that we have between us and Liverpool, which is amazing.
Yeah. Do you find then in Jersey, like, has it been beneficial? Has it been a hindrance? Obviously, a small island with only a certain amount of people in the community, and obviously a certain amount of people that are going to come and pay attention to what it is that you're doing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the UK is a lot larger. Some people would look at that and say, we're limited here because of numbers and because of events and venues and just how much stuff goes on. Maybe if we went to the UK. But then I also think what's better is like, and I do the podcast a little bit. It's like, but sort it out here first and then branch out. Mm-hmm. Because here is so small that actually you're kind of like a pioneer. Mm-hmm. If you go to the UK, then there'll be more people, but you're in competition because I'm not saying there's people who have the same idea as you, but there's probably people who have similar ideas as you. There's a lot of fucking DJs. Everyone loves DJing these days. So you go to the UK, but then you have to fight between these people. So it has being in Jersey sort of been like, has it been beneficial or has it been a hindrance, or is it like a bit of both?
I think it's been beneficial for us. We were able to create in the time that we've been doing this, it's been very, like, think about this, right? We created the Loft, we created the studio, and we gave opportunity to people who were just bedroom DJs. What happened was, because we gave those people an opportunity, they shared their mix on their platforms. What happened was their friends will support their friends. So what happened is their friends shared their mix, and then we start to create a culture around that. And now we've seen so many other promoters use what we did to try and level up their like events and so on and so forth, because no one was doing what we were doing. And that's not like a diss or anything. Like, we want them to give opportunities to up and coming DJs and everything, like all for it 100%, because at that time when I was starting out, I didn't have those opportunities. So to see that more promoters have adapted that strategy, it's like, for us, like, we're happy about it, because we know that that's something that we started. Now, for us, like you said, the limitation comes on to when the government is limiting. For you to do an event, you have to go through panel. You have to like get things authorized. There's a lot of things that go behind doing like a festival outside. So we're learning about that at the moment, and how can we work with the government to do something positive, not just for us, but for our community, because we have noticed that a lot more people are saving money going to the UK for a night out instead, because it does work out cheaper. So how can we create value in Jersey? One of the ways is basically do what we did here, but now in Liverpool. Let's try and get more up-and-coming DJs in Liverpool, give them the opportunity to play at our events, and in return, hopefully bring some of their friends over to here. So if we can figure out a cost-effective way of bringing more people here, not only are we going to bring more tourism, more money to Jersey, but we're giving our local DJs also an opportunity to shine and be like, okay, now I can take the next step, and their vision will start to grow. All right, I played in Liverpool. Where can I now play now? Do you know what I mean? Sure. So it's always like, how can you elevate someone's mind to think bigger, to be like, okay, I want to do this next. So this year is about that.
Yeah, and it's like an invisible, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, really. Without asking for it. You're not asking for it. It's the same with this. Like, I didn't expect, when I put people here in front of me, every single person that's came, when I've done, because I'll do a little photo of just me and you together to say, oh, tomorrow there'll be a podcast out, to just give people the heads up. But every single person has put that on their story. So everyone who follows that person, like Nicole, who's got like 5k followers, whatever, that's 5k people I don't know who've randomly gone, oh, what's this? And then clicked on my page, and probably, and now I'll get a couple more people paying attention to me. And it's the same what you're doing, do you know what I mean? It's like you're putting people on, but they'll bring their boys and they'll bring their little bodies and that, and then you got fucking 200-300 people standing in a crowd all of a sudden.
It's a law. It's the law of karma, isn't it? Like, what you put out, you get back. And for me, I really believe in helping as many people as you can. Like, that's one of the core foundations. And also doing more than what you're paid for. Like, if you're able to do more than what you're paid for, you will get paid in a different way. Like, it may not be money, but you will get other things come into your life that will benefit you indirectly, whether it's like an opportunity or to go somewhere or to meet someone who's then going to influence your mind to think like a different way. Like, there will always be a benefit to you.
Yeah, that's fair, mate. So, and you know, with like you're saying before about like the government and that sometimes they can not be so fucking helpful. Well, obviously, like Rojo's is just closed, eh? Are you seeing a sort of like a downturn? Like, has it been unhelpful that these places are closing and a sort of nightlife change? Because it's even like, I like live music, and I normally get out of here to go, like, leave the island to go, like, I'm going Glasgow, Reading, Download, all this shit. They're all festivals, you know what I mean? I don't really go to nightclubs anymore. But the live music scene over here for bands isn't huge. And there's just been something lately with a band called 88 Bunkface. They play a lot of pop punk. Nice. They're decent. They're a good band live. They put on a good show, man, if you want a little dance around. But they were meant to play at Chambers, and then Chambers stopped them from playing. And it's like, what the fuck do you want us to do? Because you're completely eviscerating the nightlife out here. We have these venues. These venues are open, but nothing's really going on. Let us put events on. Let us put stuff on where we're actually going to bring people out their houses and in mass and actually get a crowd. So you can earn money. We can put on a good show. We can do what we're doing or like for our semi-professional living and that. But do you see a similar thing? You know, you're trying to put DJs on, but Rojo's is being closed. A lot of people aren't leaving the house anymore. A lot of people are finding it too expensive to be rocking up to nightclubs because fucking their pittance of a wage they're getting compared to how expensive everything is.
I think it comes down to perspective. I think, like, for us, like, at least for me, is how you look at it. You can look at it. You remember what I was saying before about how you think about something is how you create it. So for us, we could go down the road. Yeah, it's rubbish. Like, Rojo's closing. Rojo's has given so much to Jersey in terms of events and everything else. However, there's the other side where everything comes to an end at one point. Do you know what I mean? Could Rojo's be a better club? Sure. has Rogers given us a lot? Sure. But what else is going to come out of that? Like, are we going to see maybe better events because now we have to think more creative? Because when you're in your comfort zone, you kind of get used to like, it's just Rogers or whatever. So for me, the way I look at it, a lot of people may be like, oh yeah, it's really shit, this is closing that. I'm not thinking like that, because that's not how I'm going to adapt to the situation. The way I'm going to approach it is like, okay, that's happening. How can we push it? Nice. How can we do better? How can we give something to the people that are used to what it is now? Do you know what I mean? How can we blow someone's mind and be like, do you know what? They did well. They actually smashed their day. They pushed the level. I'm going to support them. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, stare the adversity in the face, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because like adversity, you could either like take over you or you can take over it. For me, I'm always thinking about solutions. I'm always thinking about like, how can I use this to level up? And Sam will be the same. So that's why me and Sam get on so well. Like with us, yeah, I understand why people think it may be like, oh, that's really, and I get it. I completely, and it's justifiable. However, like for example, if you look back, a lot of people don't even know what Liquid is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but from Liquid, Coco came, which was pretty, at the time, like it was sound. There's always been like, even though something closes, there's always something that someone else will have an idea and be like, do you know what, I can do this, and that'll be the next thing.
Yeah, there's an empty space, let me jump in.
Exactly. And there's always an opportunity for those who are looking. So for me, I think it's perspective. I think it's how you adapt to it. I think that if you approach it the right way, you can benefit from it. And I'm actually excited because because they close, I think, fully July. So we're going to do, I think, one final like closing party as like the Loft, and then I think we'll be involved in the actual final party at Roger. So it's actually very empowering to be part of like what once was a big nightclub in Jersey. So we're very grateful for that. And JP, who runs it, is a really nice guy, and he's supported us from the beginning as well. So
that's good.
Thank you, JP. Yeah. You should sit in this.
Come and sit down if you shag it. I don't know you.
To be fair, actually, it would be interesting for you to get some of the older promoters like to sit down and like have a different perspective.
Because I want to know how times have changed as well, man.
That'd be really interesting, actually, because everyone's got their story. Like John, who runs Crafty J's, he's been doing nights. He did Reasons with Ben. So like they have a lot of knowledge in terms of what used to happen in Jersey. I can only tell you from the perspective of that I've experienced and where we are and where we want to go. But I can't tell you like what it was like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They probably can. And from what I hear, it used to be bouncing in Jersey.
Yeah, mate, my mum and dad were young adults here and that before me and Ethan came around, and loads of parents say that it was a different world back then. It was a lot more funner, a lot more lively. Even the weekdays apparently were great and stuff like that. And I feel like that's changed. Do
you know something else actually I want to add? And this is something that is really interesting. So in Jersey, there's especially at the end of a night, sometimes there's a lot of trouble. There's a lot like fights and everything and a lot of drunk people. That wasn't the case in Liverpool. Do you know why? Because one of the things that Jersey, I don't understand why they've done this, is limit the closing time to 2 a.m. I think that's so silly. One, like people will drink a lot to get smashed very quickly. Yeah. So they can be in the nightclub between like 10 and 11 for like 2 hours or whatever. Two, when people all come out at the same time at 2 a.m.
Everyone on the street.
So everyone just comes out, and it's a lot of pressure on the police. It's a lot of pressure on everyone who's outside, and then people normally leave to go to an afters or whatever, and then there's even more chaos, especially like in the environment that there is Jersey. If they pushed it to 4 a.m., a lot of people don't last to 4 a.m. Majority of the people don't last to 4 a.m. So what would happen is people would trickle out before it closed.
Yeah, man. I never thought of that. That's good. Like, yeah, you're so right.
Like, one, the business makes more money. There's less trouble for the police. People would probably end up just be like, oh, I've had enough, I'm going home. People wouldn't be like rushing to get steam and like, oh, I got a long night ahead of me, let me pace myself. It's so simple, but I don't understand why is this still the case here? I don't get it.
I don't think they think a lot. Let's ring 999 now. We'll tell them now. Like, put them on loudspeaker here and we'll tell them this idea and they'll probably implement it by tonight. Because all they do is like to copy other people. But yeah. No, that's a good point, mate. And I think as well, one thing that the field of work that you're in, the field of talent that you're like trying to scope out and that is, I don't think it's going anywhere. Like, I know it's not my scene, but it's you can't deny how fucking popular it is. Like, it's super popular, right? Yeah, like you only have to go down like Half Day Par Fest for that and see the amount of crowds, and it's quite surprising how many people turn up every week, and someone's turning 18 every year, so you're always going to have new demographics. Yeah, always.
I do definitely feel like, especially in Jersey, it has slowed down. Like, nightclubs are really empty, and there's many factors to that. Obviously, like if you're 18 or whatever, you're not earning the kind of money a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old is earning, so you're not spending much money on nightclubs. So they pre-drink, they go to house parties and stuff. So that's one of the reasons why clubs are not filling up. The other thing as well is like, people want something different, but if you do something consistently in the same place and it's the same thing, you get bored. And like, I feel as well, the environment that we're in is completely different. Like in the UK, you can go out 5 days in a row and you'll meet hundreds of different people those 5 days. But here, if you're going out 5 days in a row, you will see the same faces 5 days in a row. So like, and then it goes back to like, people judging you to what you used to be like, people not really giving you the time of day. So it's like, it's a catch-22, which is like, how do you create a difference?
Yeah, it's hard to shift off a name for yourself once you get one in this island.
Yeah. Man. Do you know something else as well, which I would love to see here, would be a sober night. I think that like, I've experienced that in America where we all went out and it was like a sober like night. So no one was drinking. Everyone dressed up as like, so basically, I had to dress up as you and you had to dress up as me. So I'd give you my clothes, you'd give me your clothes. Yeah. So for the night, you'd be someone else. But like, it kind of took that like, oh, what are people going to think of me? It took that away because everyone was being someone else. Well, they thought they were, but they were just being more of their true selves. They didn't care what anyone looked. It was sober. You weren't allowed to drink any alcohol. It was just like juice or water that was available. And that was one of the funnest nights I've ever had. I'm not even joking because everyone was just being silly. Like,
that's it.
Honestly, I'd love to actually see that in Jersey. I think that'd be a sick night.
Yeah. I always find there's like fear and apprehension about going out sober. It's hard to do, like, don't get me wrong. I know standing in a nightclub when you haven't had a drink around a bunch of drunk people is difficult. Can't say I've ever done it, but I might have tried once or twice and felt like I was in hell. But it's not as bad as you think. Yeah. It's a mentality thing. The apprehension and the fear you feel is just because you're used to going out steaming, you're used to being steaming. But I think we don't give ourselves enough credit as humans. We learn quickly, we adapt a lot faster. Like, I'm trying to be more sober than I am already, than I was fucking growing up. I was a menace like way back when, but I'm not like that anymore. So I've gone out a few times and not had a drink. Yeah, the first time I hated it. It was horrible. Second time I hated it, but it wasn't as worse as the first. 4 or 5 times, man, and I'm like, this is actually fun. I can still enjoy it. I've learned how to talk sober. I've learned how to express myself a little bit sober. It came. I used to be so scared. I think I'd never get to that place. It happened a lot quicker than I ever thought it was gonna. Because you put yourself in the environment and then you just learn to fucking adapt a little bit.
I agree. And it's breaking those walls again, isn't it? It's like that little step of like becoming the person that you want to be.
Yeah. There's some cat like phrase that gets thrown around, but it's like what is it, man? Like, instead of being comfortable, put yourself in uncomfortable positions or get comfortable with uncomfortability or something like that. It's well cliche, but there's actually power to it and there's some fucking truth to that, man.
Amen.
Anyway, brother, is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there any direction you want to take this?
Where do you see yourself taking this podcast?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd like to carry it on. to the point where I see myself taking it is I want to keep going around the island, man, picking little people up, you know, people that have stories to tell, because they all exist, and there's loads of people. There's people who are lined up that I can't wait to talk to. I can't wait to put out there. I don't want to shove it in people's face. I don't want to, you know, to ask people to pay attention to you for an hour or two once a week. It's a big ask. Everyone's busy, and I don't want to be that guy that's like, here's an episode, here's an episode, here's an episode. So I'm going to try to space them out. I also do want to grow it, but I want to grow it in my own sort of way. Like, I want to stick to long form content. I don't want to turn any of this into shorts. I want to give you the choice. Look, I'm putting this up for an hour or two, a chat with Cisco. If you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to listen to it. It's cool. If you want to listen to it, this is where you can find it. I don't want to be forceful in any sort of sense. I'd love to grow it to the point where I'd love to go over to the UK and end up interviewing people. Sorry, I'm going to rephrase, because I hate the word interview, because what I've learned since doing this, I have a much more positive feeling in myself when the conversation goes how it's gone today, back and forth. I never want to sit here and be like, oh, here's a list of questions, and I feel like I'm interviewing you. If I felt like I was interviewing you, then I wouldn't want to do this. I don't think it would be a good episode. I want to be part of the chat. And I feel like maybe just because of my personality, then I'm all right at doing that. So I want to just keep completing around here until we've got a good CV. I want a good CV on the fucking internet. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've spoke to 40 people. Then hopefully I want someone else, not a sponsor or someone, it'd be, fuck it. Like, imagine someone sponsored me and said, look, I like listening to you, man. I've got a little bit of money. I'll pay you $3,000 a month to go around and interview people. Like, some rich people do that, man. For some people. So I want to see how far it goes. Obviously I got the YouTube a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of music as well in my spare time, but I'd love to keep growing it. But I will say, like, I know that I've jumped on a ship late. What annoys me a little bit about podcasts is I think a lot of people start them with the goal to have that sort of prolific infamy. Do you know, I want to be famous, I want to be a big YouTube star, I want my own fame, and let me doing a podcast. And to be honest, man, you're not going to get that from just doing a podcast, because you only have to go on your phone to see everyone's doing. Every famous person you know is doing podcasts. Every YouTuber, every celebrity, every group of people. I know I'm just trying to squeeze in there, and I'm not saying, oh, mine's better than everyone, listen to me. My point is just that, like, I like to have the conversations. I've on the Instagram page will tell you what this is all about. It's about having open and honest conversations where we talk more. It's like turning the dial back, like it's called. So, and that's what I want to keep doing. I want to have conversations that are eye-opening with people, to say, for people to think, oh, you know, that's a great conversation. I take something away from that. Like, people might listen to me and you and be like, what was that book he was talking about? Let me go read that. And then they read that book and they sort of have a different experience, and maybe their life can be put on a better path instead of the path. I do kind of want to make a difference in the world. And I know I don't have the power to make a massive difference, but if you just start putting the foundations in place, then I don't know what could happen. I'd like, in an ideal world, man, I'd like to take this as high as it would go. If I could do this as a job, I would put all my time and energy into it, and I'd make sure it was a good job. You know what I mean? And I would go travel and I'd interview people. I would like to as well, at some point, if I feel like these sort of conversations could have a little bit more oomph to them, then I could portable it. Do you know what I mean? Could go up to the old people's home and speak to a 90-year-old. I could go up to...
that'd be sick.
Yeah, I can go... I've got people from the mental health industry who are checking with their bosses because I've got a lady who's been sober for 11 years who's going to come and talk to me about sobriety and stuff like that. So, and that's because I know, you know, we live in an environment where alcohol affects so many people. Do you know what I mean? It's affected me in a massive way. It's affected other people in a massive way. It's not good for your mental health. As fun as it is, and as much as I do love it, it's like it has its demons. But because I think I've been through a couple of things here and there, that I've got experience. And if you mix like whatever experience I do have with the fact that I'm quite like an empathic person who likes to have conversations, I think it'd be a waste for me not to sort of, like, I'm a good I'm like the guy that's like could help have these conversations. You know what I mean? I can only do half. The person opposite me has to do the other half. But I think I can help drive it by putting that person in front of me. So yeah, I'd like to make something big out of this, but I'm not going to let that control my life. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not sitting here with, fuck man, I got a podcast, let me do 10 hours of editing, let me make shorts, let me pay for loads of adverts, let me push it in everyone's face. I don't want to do that. I'd like it to just grow naturally. This conversation I had with Teddy, it's like, if I'd done this now, for the next 5 years, but I worried every day, I worried about how many people are going to watch. I worried about, I never check analytics, mate. I don't care if 10 people watched it or 1,000 people watch it. I don't give a shit. I do give a shit, but it doesn't affect me. It doesn't hurt me. If I post this tonight, no one watches it, I'm not going to wake up tomorrow upset, man. I've had a good time. That's it. I'll always stick to that mentality. So my point is, say if you think like that every single day for 5 years, and even if something big comes of this in 5 years, I would have done nothing but worrying. If I can get through 5 years of doing this, but I've smiled all the way through it. What were we talking about journeys before, man? Then I'll be so much more happy and fulfilled in my own life that I've done it in a way where I never put any pressure on myself. I didn't manage myself. I didn't hold like, this has to work, otherwise I'm failing. You know what I mean? If you just let it out into the wild and see what happens, man, and don't pay too much attention to it. And obviously you've got to guide it, which is what I do. I guide it. Do you know what I mean? When I've cleaned up podcasts before instead of just putting the whole thing up. I make sure they're nice and neat and they're presentable for a wider audience, but I don't ever want to hold myself to it. I've done it with other stuff, mate, where I'm like, but I'm just intense, you have to do it this way, you have to do it this way. I don't want that with this, man. I just want to just, like I said, let it out and see what happens, and I'm happy with whatever result I get. The bigger the result, the better. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't go that way.
I like that, and I just want to give you your flowers because coming here, I was already really excited because of the conversation that we had at Steads. I knew this was going, for me, I just had a feeling that it was going to be a space where I could be myself and I could talk openly and don't care about what anyone thinks because, one, I'm being my true self. But the thing I like most about you and what you do really well is you hold space for people to finish their sentences, and you allow people to actually open, and you're not interrupting. You let them finish, and then if you feel like that's it, then you will engage, which is, I think, is a really good skill to have. So I think that's amazing. I love the way that you're again going around people in Jersey and building a foundation here. I think that's amazing. I have to give you props for that. I think that's amazing, and I also think the way you're approaching it is, for me, is the way I would approach it, because when you set high expectations, you're setting yourself up to fail. But if you have low expectations and it blows up, then your job is done, and you will feel so much more happier and complete, because you set your bar so low in terms of results, that when those results come in, and they will, because I believe in you, and I think what you're doing is amazing, and I'm all for it. And I honestly think if you carry on, this can really be a platform where there's a voice in Jersey, and I would wish that for you 100%. So I'm really happy that you let me come here. And yeah, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, man.
Mate, no problem at all. Thanks for saying that. That made me feel good, mate. Say some more stuff. Nah, I'm joking. But I do appreciate that, mate. And I'm glad that you've seen that in me. And I'm glad that, because that is what I'm trying to get at. Everything that you've sort of clocked and noticed, it is my goal. And you know what I'm like, man? I don't care about the attention, to be honest, at all. I'm in it for the conversation. I'm in it for to when we sat at Steads as well, that was surprising to me, and I knew today was going to go like this. And you've been very helpful, mate, because this is my first one of the new year, because I wanted to do my own thing for a month or two, so it didn't get intense. That was me taking a step back, so I made sure that it wasn't too crazy. And you've been a great conversationalist, mate. And
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Thank you for coming, man, and you're always welcome to come back.
Thank you.
Happy days. Cheers, bro.
Cheers.
Oh, that was sound. How do you feel?
Oh, I need a piss.
Oh, mate, you could have went for it. I would have come.